everywhere. So we are live on our Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and we are going to do this week's rewrite. So if you are joining me for the first time, my name is Mubaraka Ibrahim, and here on the Fit Muslima platform, we talk about food, faith, and fitness. This week, in the next few weeks, I am going to be rewriting a book that I wrote 4 years ago. What year did I write? And the reason why I'm rewriting it is because it is a very practical book. So I wrote this book in 2019. And when I say practical, I mean it's literally in practice, right? So when I initially wrote the book, I had only helped a couple of hundred women with the philosophies, including myself. But since then, I have helped many, many more women with the mR40 method protocol. And so I've learned a lot. New science have come out. And so I wanted to do a second edition and add several more things. So as I am going through the process, I thought that I would have you to join me every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Last week, if you want to scroll down the platform, I'll try to make an album out of it. We read the preface. So today I'm going to read and talk about the introduction. So introduction to the book is sort of how I got to the point where my health and nutrition philosophy changed and my focus narrowed in on insulin resistance, low carb eating, and ketogenic lifestyles. So introduction. Unlearn what I have learned. I need to change that. Unlearn what I have learned about weight loss. That is definitely what I need the subtitle for the introduction to be. All right. So it says, it reads, I'm a personal trainer, fitness expert, and weight loss coach with 20 years of experience. This is what I do. I help thousands of women lose weight and regain their health and confidence. And at the same time, one would think I'm not supposed to struggle with my weight, but life had other plans. In 2015, life threw me a curveball. During a regular annual OBGYN appointment, my doctor discovered a growth in my uterus that needed to be removed and tested for cancer. During the 2 weeks between having the procedure to remove the growth and waiting for the results, I began to reevaluate my entire life. This is always a concern. So this is out of the book. So I do have a family history, particularly females in my family that have gotten cancer several times. Women-specific cancer, meaning breast cancer, uterine cancer. I have cousins who died fairly young in their 50s from cancer. So it is always a concern for me. And it's one of those things where we can do as much as we possibly can, but that is like qadrullah, right? It is, we can prevent diabetes, we can do everything we can to prevent high blood pressure, heart disease, but cancer is one of those diseases that we have not really been able to specify exactly what prevents it, which is different than other types of diseases, right? All right, back to the book. Despite having a successful business and other significant career milestones like being featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show and being invited to dinner with President Barack Obama for my contributions to health and wellness in America, I was also concerned about all the goals I had not accomplished. I realized these goals had been delayed for far too long. So when you have a whole life, when you're reanalyzing your life, right? You think about what you've accomplished, you think about what you have not accomplished. And after receiving the news that the growth was not cancer, alhamdulillah, I was able to sigh a breath of relief. In addition, this clean bill of health provided me with the motivation to make the appropriate adjustments in my life. So, as I mentioned earlier, I knew I needed to begin accomplishing the unfulfilled goals. Not simply creating a goal, but following through in accomplishing goals. And the first goal on my list was to return to college and graduate. In order to do this, I closed my fitness studio and returned to school full time. Wow. This was definitely a course correction and a major life change for me. It was a huge change for my family as well. So at the time, I had a physical health and fitness studio. It was growing, it was doing well. I was making seven figures a year from my studio. I had significant milestones, as I mentioned earlier, as far as international exposure. I was speaking, and I think that it came as a bit of surprise. So if I have any of my former clients watching this who wasn't aware of why I actually end up closing my studio, you're going to find out why. This is why. And the studio was doing well, but money isn't everything, so I needed to do something that for me was important, right? I had 3 years of college under my belt because I had a very different life path. I got married very young. I had children very young. And so I would do a semester, have a baby, do a year, have a baby. I have four children and I had them all before I was 25. So you can imagine sort of the the life ups and downs when it comes to achieving goals and having children. And I had 1 year left of college, right? And I'm like, I need to finish this. I didn't need to finish it in order to have a career. I already had a career. I already had over a dozen, in lieu of being able to go to college. I just started amassing certifications so that I can learn as much as I possibly could. And so I didn't need the degree in order to have the career that I have. I didn't need the degree in order for me to make more money, right? I wanted the degree as a self-fulfilling goal. And so I closed my fitness studio that was actually doing quite well at the time. And I decided to go back to school. Like I literally was just like, told my husband, like, after I get my degree, if I want to open up a studio again, I'm sure that I could, but I need to do this. And so, alhamdulillah, he supported me, and that is what I did. And my kids didn't have to come to the studio after school. It was like everything about our life changed at that point. So, in the midst of this huge life change, one of my children, unexpectedly to me, obviously, began to struggle with some mental health issues. They experienced several hospital stays and participated in intensive outpatient treatment. Everything seemed to be spiraling out of control. Regularly, I woke up in the night just looking at the ceiling and worrying. I also remember during my studies leaving class to cry in the bathroom. I couldn't figure out how I would have enough time to meet the deadlines for my research paper while regularly meeting with healthcare professionals and taking my child to their therapist. Like this was a very, very stressful time in my life, right? So I went from one stress, worrying about my health, to a whole nother stress, but life happens, right? During this stressful period of my life, I found comfort in taking car rides alone. Often I would end up in the ice cream shop. Each time I told myself I would get a small ice cream cone and a healthy dinner was going to be eaten later and it would balance everything out. I justified my feelings and my weight gain with I'm getting older, I'm supposed to gain weight. Or I would tell myself, well, I have a hips and butt now, and that's what real women are supposed to look like. Honestly, I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. Those were just words that I told myself to cope with the fact that I was not ready to make any changes to my eating habits. Right. So I always exercise. So throughout this whole process, like exercise is just a natural part of what I do on a daily basis, being physically active. But as they say, you cannot outrun a bad diet. Okay, back to the reading. At the same time, I realized I was using my hijab, the Islamic concept of modest clothing and accessories, as a cover instead of a covering. Meaning, I questioned whether I chose extra loose shirts as a form of modesty or just to cover up the rolls of fat I felt so uncomfortable having around my waist. I wondered if I was wearing long shirts to hide my hips because I was being modest or because I was embarrassed by my weight gain. All the time, I knew the truth. I desperately wanted to lose weight. No, I desperately needed to lose weight. As my clothes options dwindled because many items in my closet no longer covered my unwanted belly rolls or widening hips, the scale also tipped at 178 pounds, and I was devastated. With the exception of pregnancy, this was the heaviest I had ever been. So once my child's mental health was stable and I graduated, I set out on a mission to lose the weight that I had gained. I resumed my morning runs and got a gym membership so I could do more strength training. I also enrolled in a boot camp. I even hired a personal trainer to give me that extra push. I was working out 6 days a week, including running and hiking 5 to 10 miles on the weekend. I became physically fit and absolutely exhausted. Now, I know that there are some people out there that can totally relate to this. You're doing everything that you're supposed to do, and you're not losing anything but energy. Been there, done that. I stopped soothing myself with ice cream and junk food and began to choose healthier food options. For breakfast, I had fruit and veggie smoothies. Throughout the day, I ate low-fat foods, lots of vegetables and lean proteins. And after doing this for a while and the scale barely budged, I started calculating each gram of carbohydrates, protein, fat. Ultimately, I decided to implement a strict 40% carbs, 40% protein, 20% fat ratio on a daily basis. This had worked in the past, and it was the same program that helped my clients collectively lose thousands of pounds throughout the years that I had been a trainer. But I did it, and it didn't work for me. I created it. After nearly a year, I was physically stronger and more emotionally balanced. However, when I looked in the mirror, the person I saw didn't reflect the strength I was gaining, the fitness level I was experiencing, or the positive mindset I regained. In other words, my healthy eating, in quotation, healthy eating choices weren't resulting in the body I hoped it would create. It seemed like the hours and months spent exercising meant nothing. I was afraid all the years I spent trying to avoid my family history of diabetes and high blood pressure meant nothing as well. Consequently, I questioned whether or not I would end up suffering from these illnesses too. So, in my family, diabetes and high blood pressure runs very strongly. On my dad's side, high blood pressure is very prevalent. My father died from a stroke due to high blood pressure. My grandmother, his mother, died from an aneurysm. His sister died from an aneurysm. All of his sisters have high blood pressure, um, uh, two with several strokes. So it is a huge concern. It is a very strong gene that is on my father's side. On my mother's side, diabetes is the most prevalent disease. My mother had diabetes. She got gestational diabetes, and like 50% of the women who get gestational diabetes, it developed into full-fledged type 2 diabetes very shortly after her pregnancy. She died from the effects of having unmanaged diabetes for over 30 years. Her mother had diabetes, her father had diabetes, her sisters and brothers have diabetes. Like, it is a very strong gene. We'll talk about genetics versus lifestyle later, but let's get back to the reading. All right. So, where's that? All right. something just didn't seem right. I was sure there was something wrong with me. So I went to my doctor and asked her to run a complete metabolic panel, test my thyroid, test my blood pressure, test my A1C, anything else she believed that would be beneficial. All the test back results came back normal for 2 years. My doctor simply said, it just comes with age. You eat healthy, you work out on a regular basis, and you have no existing health issues. So I'm not concerned. But I was concerned because excess weight, even with a healthy lifestyle, eventually leads to illness. I knew my healthy eating habits and active lifestyle were good methods to delay illness, but my risk was still high. So this is actually an important point, right? Because oftentimes we hear like, "Oh, well, is even if you're quote unquote skinny, let's use that term, even though I don't like that term, right? Even if you're not skinny, if you exercise, then you're healthy. If you are active, then you're healthy. All of these things are just components of health, just like weight is a component of health. And being physically active and physically fit can certainly delay, it improves. It's much better than being overweight and sedentary. Obviously, overweight and active is certainly much better, but it still will eventually, right? It just sort of delays, the activity delays the onset of illness. And that was my concern when I was overweight. When my test came back normal, this was the turning point for me. If there was nothing wrong with me physically, there had to be something happening within my body. So I stopped blaming myself and started looking for solutions. I believed that there had to be some other approach to weight loss. So, this is a really important point to me because oftentimes, because we are obsessed with this idea that weight loss is only calories in, calories out. If you're not losing weight, you're eating too much. If you're not losing weight, you're not exercising enough. If you're gaining weight, then you must be gorging, you must be, right? All of these things, which in the end really blames the person. I'm not saying that that's never true. All right. But I'm saying that when you try those things and give it an honest effort, and you know when you've given it on, we know when we're doing what we're supposed to do and not doing what we're supposed to do, right? And you give it an honest effort and it doesn't work, at some point you have to understand that it's not just about calories in, calories out. So, what did I do when I decided, okay, I'm actually quite a persistent person, if you haven't figured that out yet. I pulled out my old college textbooks and notes from my exercise and nutrition class, right? After flipping through chapter after chapter, I found a small section explaining ketogenic eating and how it changes the metabolic process of the body. It explained how it affected the body's ability to burn fat and fat as fuel. I was intrigued. It was the opposite of everything that I was taught to believe as the best approach for health and weight loss. Now I discovered that there was not just one way to lose weight and be healthy. I needed to know more. After spending the better part of a year delving into scientific research on ketogenic eating, which led me into research on intermittent fasting and eventually angiogenesis inhibiting foods, I had to unlearn many of the truths I thought I knew. For example, for years I was told and repeated to others, fat was bad and whole grains were the key to health. I also believed that breakfast was the most important meal of the day. And I believed I had to eat every 3 to 4 hours to boost my metabolism. But in reality, all that advice was conditional at best, and it didn't work for everyone. After adopting a ketogenic eating into my life, the first thing that I noticed was the way my energy increased, my focus, and my productivity. Then I stepped onto the scales, and the numbers finally started to decrease consistently and each week. Soon, I had lost 38 pounds and reduced my body fat by 15%, dropped almost 8 pant sizes, and kept it off. But even better, now I wake up almost every morning feeling amazing, right? Not exhausted from the workout the day before or my day the day before. I actually felt good. I'm energized to start my day. I have mental clarity and focus. And for the first time in a long time, I loved my body. And when I looked in the mirror, I loved the person that I saw and felt it was a reflection of how I felt. When I was writing my book, this book, the mR40 method, the 40-day guide to reset your metabolism, lose weight, and optimize your health, I chose to emphasize the ketogenic way of life, including information on how to do a complete metabolic reset in 40 days. I also, hold on, I lost my spot. And also how to have the ability to change your physical and mental health for the better. I understand that there's no diet for weight loss. There's no one diet for weight loss. And my mR40 method may not be for everyone. But if you've been trying to lose weight and despite doing everything right, the scale barely budges. If you're feeling stuck in a cycle of trying and failing and trying and failing again, if you exercise for hours just to feel exhausted and see no results, if you struggle with food cravings, mood swings, hormonal imbalance, and know it's related to your food, but don't know where to start correcting it. If you hate trying to lose weight means sticking to a diet that makes you hangry, right? Hungry and angry, and leaves you feeling defeated. If you are spending hours cooking and doing meal prep just to eat what amounts to a microwave leftovers because you're force feeding yourself every 3 to 4 hours, or if you're just sick and tired of being sick and tired, then the mR40 method will teach you the science and research of how to lose weight, balance your hormones, increase your energy, reduce inflammation, and optimize your health in a practical and sustainable lifestyle. That is the introduction to the book. And then y'all probably seen this picture 100 times, right? Sort of my 38 pounds weight loss using the method in this book. So first of all, I got some typos. So I will definitely be rewriting. I think that also it's important to note sort of like I put in there how I had been really working hard towards weight loss and how it wasn't working. What I was actually doing was becoming Army fit. So I started this, so I closed my studio when I was about 37 or 38, one of those years. And when I was 39, getting ready to turn 40, is when I started to get serious about, okay, I spent actually 2 years, I gained a lot of weight because of all of the things that was happening in my life that I talked about. And then when I was 39, I was like, I'm going to enter my 40th birthday like the fittest that I've ever been, right? And so I decided to become Army fit. I literally looked, no intentions to join the Army. I literally looked up the requirements to join the US Army at 40. And there was a push-up requirement, a run requirement. I think there's also a squat requirement. There's like 4 or 5 categories that was like, this is what you're going to be tested on. And this is like the scale of what they're going to judge you. And that was literally my goal because my focus was, okay, let me have something to work on towards becoming more fit. as I am trying to lose the weight, because that is going to keep me going. It does work, by the way. It keeps you motivated when you have a physical goal to achieve and a fitness goal to achieve. So I was working out like crazy, like literally. By my 40th birthday, I should actually probably scroll back on my Facebook and do some screenshots, because by my 40th birthday, I could have joined the army and scored top score. I was fit, but I had barely lost any weight. Like it was crazy. I was like, wow, I can run a 7-minute mile at this weight. Crazy. Hold on, let me. There we go. So I was really, really focused on trying to be the fittest that I was, so that my internal and external fitness would, or the way that I feel and how fit I was, that they would match. Like I literally could have joined the army at 40. I did not. I just needed it as a fitness goal. All right. So that is the introduction to my book. And over the next week, so what are we talking about next Tuesday? Next Tuesday, we are going to call. Oh, let me go ahead and read you the welcome. Next Tuesday, we are actually going to talk about the overview of what the mR40 method is. And we are also going to discuss, then we're going to get into intermittent fasting, right? And the science behind it and how to apply it in a practical manner. After we talk about intermittent fasting, we are going to talk about ketogenic eating. And one of the things that I do want to add to the book is, what is the difference between a ketogenic nutrition? So there's different levels. There's medical keto, there's nutritional keto. For weight loss, we're focused on nutritional keto. And then I'm also going to get into low carb eating and what that is as well. I want to add a lot more in this book, specifically around insulin resistance, because it is certainly the key benefit to following the protocol here. So my protocol is actually 4 steps. It is ketogenic, it is intermittent fasting, ketogenic eating, Metcon workout, metabolic conditioning workouts, and angiogenesis inhibiting foods, in that order of importance. And we are going to get into each one. Let me see, how many chapters do I have? I have, that's a meal plan, so that's not a chapter. I have currently, well, that's questions and answer, 10 chapters, but I'm going to say that I'm going to end up adding a couple of more chapters because of information that I'd like to add to the book. So let's say the next 12 weeks, join me on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we are going to review the chapters. Would love some, as we go through these things, feedback concerning kind of like more information that you want me to put inside of the book, or if I'm reading something and something didn't seem clear. Would love feedback on that kind of stuff, so that when the second edition comes out, it will be thorough. All right. So I will talk to you guys next Tuesday. I'm sure I'll talk to you before then. I'll go live about something else. But for now, today is our second of our book rewrites. So I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning in. Assalamu alaikum. Remember to share this with somebody who may want to join us on Tuesdays and learn how to break sugar addiction, rebalance their hormones, and finally lose weight, right? If you share this with somebody or share on your timeline, you could be helping somebody that's really struggling right now and not really saying anything, because I used to be that person, right? And it was kind of hard for me to initially write the introduction to this book, because I'm like, I'm a personal trainer. Like, this is what I do. I help people lose weight. Why am I struggling? People don't expect me to struggle. I shouldn't tell people that I struggle with my weight too. Right? And did not always struggle with my weight, right? Is actually something that started happening once I got over 30, when I started nearing 40. So that's one of the reasons why I talk about how, you know, if you're 25, and you just eating a whole bunch of junk, cutting out that junk, going whole foods is probably going to make a huge difference in your weight loss journey. When you're 40, it changes a little bit. So, this is for the change. Maybe we will subtitle it. It's I call it the shift anyway. So, inshallah, I'll talk to you guys next time. Assalamu alaikum.